Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Alright friends, so we can see the cracks forming, huh? It feels like the 2024 election was really a seismic event sending shockwaves through the political world, and this seismic activity seems to have caused some damage on the other side. Like I just said, the cracks are starting to show. This beautiful progressive tower built by the left that seemed so tall it was scraping the sky, well, it seems like the left's terrifying tower is starting to crack and collapse as the left-wing infighting continues to ramp up. I think what we're seeing is the fracturing of the Democrat Party. There's those who are continuing down the path of delusion and those who are actually snapping out of it and waking up. I guess what it feels like is the Democrat Party is slowly but surely falling apart before our very eyes. And it feels like this current environment is probably the perfect breeding ground for converting left-wingers to common sense conservatism. The infighting continues, it's all falling apart. We got some of the biggest left-wing talking heads turning against the party. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so the infighting continues, the conversation continues to be pretty heated here. Take a look.
I think some of the best moments on The Breakfast Club in this election process was when young black men would call in to explain why it was that they had turned on the Democratic Party. And I find their perspective incredibly important and very interesting. And I feel that they were just kind of left behind by the Democratic Party. And you know, one of the things that would come up over and over again was the immigration issue. And I'm not under the impression at all that these are anti-immigrant individuals, but people living in places like Chicago, for instance, who have seen their resources, which are usually used to nickel and dime the local black community there, essentially be used for the influx of migrants who came in. Federal government run by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris just kind of neglected the issue and allowed these municipalities to struggle with the issue on their own. And the thing that frustrates me, Charlemagne, is that if you are someone who identifies as on the left, regardless of where you fall on that left-wing spectrum, if you have the audacity to bring up this very real issue, well, I mean, you know how Sonny Hostin will treat you if you bring it up on The View, right? And I think that's an issue. I think it's a problem. The Democrats seem to not ever want to do a little bit of self-reflection to understand, okay, what can we do better the next time around? Instead, I see them kind of lashing out and blaming everyone else for the loss. What do you think?
I agree. I was a victim of it. I mean, they lost that battle a couple of years ago. I remember a couple of years ago when Governor Greg Abbott and Governor Ron DeSantis were putting, you know, the migrants on buses and planes and sending them to so-called sanctuary cities. And then, you know, as soon as they got there, those so-called sanctuary cities, they weren't so sanctimonious, were they? They were literally saying, hey, no, send them back. You can't come. And I said back then, I thought that was evil genius. Yes, it was inhumane and cruel to do that, but on the flip side, you did say you were sanctuary cities, and you did say you wanted these people until you got them. And so then when they realized it was an issue and they were saying don't come, it made the Republicans look like they had it right the whole time. We're not MAGA in any way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. They were just talking to people about what was going on in their communities. In New York City, Mayor Adams let a bunch of migrants stay in a school overnight and made the kids that went to the school do homeschooling that day because he needed to give the migrants housing for the night. People were calling into the radio station complaining about that. So when I get on the air and I say that, or if I'm in an interview with, I think at the time I was doing an interview with Fox News, and they asked me a simple question: do I think the border is going to play an issue come November? I told them everything I just told y'all. Next thing I know, MSNBC has a headline that says Charlemagne the God is spreading MAGA messaging. That is not MAGA messaging, and that is the Democrats dismissing what their base was actually telling them because they already had labeled the issue of the border a Republican MAGA issue, and it wasn't. It was an American issue, and it was people in their party, people in their base, or used to be in their base, complaining about it, and they didn't listen.
It seems like reality seems to be smacking these people straight in the face like never before. And honestly, it's kind of refreshing. You know what it really feels like is almost vindication. All of a sudden, it seems like so many of our ideas are getting so much recognition. Honestly, it's unfamiliar territory for me. You know, usually we've been on the back foot, we've been on the defensive a little bit. You know, the left's been in the driving seat, but now it feels like it's totally flipped. It feels like the Democrat Party is being pulled in 15 different directions. It's almost like we're a fly on the wall watching the Democrat Party totally eating itself alive. And it seems as though our assessment is correct, and many left-wingers, or at least those with an ounce of dignity, common sense, and honesty left, well, it seems as though they agree. The fallout from the 2024 election has essentially revealed the Democrats for what they truly are: a party in denial, a party that is increasingly out of touch and disconnected from the needs of everyday Americans. There are so many people who have bought into the idea that the Democrat Party is the party that cares about people. There are so many people who have formed their identity around being good Democrats. It seems like a lot of those people these days seem to be having a little bit of an identity crisis. You know, they're coming to a realization that they might not be the good guys.
Are we the baddies?
And that seems to be exactly what's happening here. And it also seems to be happening on so many different issues. And, you know, like I was mentioning earlier, being kind of like a fly on the wall, that's really what it feels like, because not too long ago, we were covering this clip with Charlemagne.
I'll tell you what, that ad they was running during the football games this weekend claiming the vice president supports funding gender transition surgeries for all prison inmates and migrants in the U.S., that was nuts. I don't know if it was...
I wouldn't say nuts, but that was crazy.
That was funny.
I don't know if it was the backdrop of football, but when you hear the narrator say Kamala supports taxpayer-funded changes for prisoners, that one line, I was like, hell no, I don't want my taxpayer dollars going to that.
You know, that felt like a moment of realization, and now it seems like we've got another. As these leftists engage in this retrospective analysis of the election, they're realizing just how bad they were on the issues. And that's where the sanctuary city realization comes into play. You know, it's just the perfect example that underscores just how disconnected the liberal elites are from the real-world consequences of their policies. You know, how could I describe it in the simplest way possible? What it feels like is almost like Democrats looking back, smacking themselves on the forehead saying, oh, what were we thinking? And really, what were they thinking? Declaring themselves sanctuary cities, then going into full-blown meltdown mode the moment Republican governors send the migrants to your city to seek sanctuary. Oh, maybe that wasn't such a good look. I mean, yeah, you think? But of course it happened, and now here we are today, in the middle of the aftermath, and it seems like there's one group that wants to acknowledge the reality, improve, move forward, and there's another group that refuses to do any of that. And so essentially, you've got a group of crazy people that are in denial, mixing with people who are waking up, where common sense is kind of coming to the forefront again. And let's just say that shouldn't be a recipe for success. People are done with the hypocrisy. The left has built their entire platform on open borders rhetoric, demonizing law enforcement, and vilifying anybody who calls for law and order as some sort of fascist or racist. But the Democrats who call for a lot of this stuff have never had to actually live with the consequences of their own policies. And people see that as clear as day now, and no wonder Democrats are bleeding support from working class Americans. No wonder Latinos are ditching the party. And meanwhile, on the other side, conservatives, by contrast, well, they've been pretty clear-eyed about the border crisis from the start. And so it feels like we're in the perfect situation for red pills to be handed to the masses. I think people are realizing that Republicans were right all along. I mean, that's essentially exactly what Charlemagne said. He said, it made the Republicans look like they had it right the whole time. And that's exactly what it was. The left created their little bubble. They created their narrative-driven false reality. And now it seems as though some people are choosing to stay inside that little bubble, but others, it seems, are waking up. And if that's the case, I mean, if that's the case even a little bit, then like I keep saying, Democrats are going to have set their party back probably a good 20 years. It really, truly does feel like the fake news chickens have finally come home to roost, and the backlash might be so severe that the TYT ends up being a MAGA network. The Democrats are in disarray, folks, and that can only mean good things are on the horizon. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.